Today, I'm going to be breaking down and showing you everything you need to know to build your very first multi-platform application with C# for iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows with .NET MAUI and Visual Studio. So tune in. Hey everyone, I'm James, and about 2 years ago, I did a video all about building your first app with Xamarin and Xamarin Forms for iOS, Android, and Windows. And that video did pretty good, over 300,000 views. Appreciate all the support and everyone that's followed me on this journey on my long nights and weekends creating these videos, editing them, and uploading them. My setup may have gotten a little bit prettier and fancier with blurred backgrounds, but I still love teaching people about building applications with C#. And today, that's what we're going to do. We're going to learn how to build multi-platform applications with .NET MAUI, the .NET Multi-Platform App UI. And I'm going to break down everything you need to know from installation, machine setup, creating new projects, what's inside of them, how to style things, how to do some navigation, and of course, how to deploy your applications. But before we get into that, what are we actually talking about? Well, let's first start with the basics. We're going to be using C#, which is an object-oriented programming language. It's my favorite programming language in the entire world, and it is one of 3 programming languages for .NET. Now, C# is an object-oriented programming language, but along with it is also Visual Basic and also F#, which is a functional programming language. And what's really cool about .NET is that you can write code in all 3 of those different programming languages. You compile up your code and you can execute and run it with .NET, which is not only a free cross-platform open source developer platform and runtime to build apps for just about anything, but it also is a whole set of base class libraries to do things like file I/O, networking, types, and a whole bunch more. Now, I love C# because it enables me to write awesome applications for just about anything with .NET, and I just really have embraced object-oriented programming. Now, what I do love is that you can really truly build for just about anything. C# and .NET run on iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows, but also on Linux. It also runs on web servers and WebAssembly on IoT devices. It powers game engines like Unity, and honestly, so much more. And that's why I love it, because as a C# developer, I can truly learn one programming language in one stack, and my skills can translate from any of those different platforms. Now, I started my journey writing video games in C#, then progressing to working for Canon and writing printer software. Then I went off and I actually got my very first smartphone and started building applications. Now, back then, I was building applications with Xamarin, which is a company I went to go work for as a developer advocate. Now, Xamarin was a precursor to everything that we're talking about today. Xamarin iOS, Xamarin Android, and Xamarin Mac were core platforms that enabled .NET and C# code to run on those different platforms. And I fell in love with this. I based my entire career off of it, which led me up into this point, working out for Microsoft, because Microsoft acquired Xamarin about 6 years ago in 2016. What was cool about that is at the time at Xamarin, the team had been developing Xamarin Forms, a cross-platform UI stack that was really for mobile-first usage, so for iOS and Android, and some Windows scenarios as well. Now, over the time, .NET has really evolved into a singular, awesome runtime. The latest version is .NET 6, and actually this fall, on November, every November, a new version of .NET is released. So in November of 2022, .NET 7 will be released. And with .NET 6, it was a complete unification of .NET. And along with that, Xamarin became iOS, Android, and Mac for .NET. And additionally, Xamarin Forms evolved into .NET MAUI, the .NET Multi-Platform App UI. Now, what's really cool about this is that it unified the project system, the runtime, the class libraries, and all the tooling and integration for CLI, which is command line interface, for DevOps pipelines, the project system itself, the tooling, and honestly, so much more. .NET for iOS, Android, Mac, all are a .NET workload that you can install side by side the .NET SDK. Now, .NET MAUI is built on top of those layers, right? So if you had a Xamarin iOS, Android, or Mac app, you can upgrade them to .NET 6, which is really cool. Now, if you had a Xamarin Forms application, you could also upgrade that and migrate it over to .NET MAUI because there is a sort of backwards compatibility layer. But with .NET MAUI, it is a multi-platform app UI that has been sort of built from the ground up with new infrastructure of years upon years of learning with Xamarin Forms, integrating and building on top of the new .NET 6 platform, and bringing in world-class support for not only mobile for iOS and Android, including tablet support too, and desktop support for Mac and Windows. And it uses the latest and greatest technologies. I have a whole video of exactly what is .NET MAUI, how does it work, and all these things, and one also comparing it to Xamarin, so you can kind of follow along with that if you want more detailed information. But at a high level, know that what iOS, Android, and Mac for .NET do is run and build those applications with C# and .NET, access those native APIs with C#, and then on top of that is built .NET MAUI, an abstraction over common controls, frameworks, platform APIs, pages, layouts, and so much more. So you as a developer can build your UI once and access native APIs once, and then they all create and display native UI controls at the end of the day. Now with .NET MAUI, there's over 50 layouts, pages, and controls built in, but additionally, there's a full drawing API and full support for Skia Sharp and so much more. There's so much into this. Why don't we just get in to start coding? All right, the first thing you need to do is head over, of course, to the .NET website. This is where you're going to learn all about .NET. Now the page may look a little bit different based on when you're viewing this video, but what you can see is that you can not only build for any device with .NET MAUI, or if you're a web developer, Blazor, you can also integrate these two together, which I'll talk about in future videos. But you can explore exactly all the different worlds of .NET and all the things you can build. You can always go to features, and here we can tap on .NET MAUI. And here what we'll see is a simple get started button. You can figure out exactly what you need to download and get started, whether you're on Mac or PC, and of course, read and browse a little bit more about .NET MAUI and all the features that are in there. And this is what I love, this unified app platform that really gets me off the ground running quickly. Now, what I do like about this is what we can see is with .NET, I can not only just share code with my mobile and desktop apps, but I can share my source code and different models and different things, services, with any of my .NET applications. And that's the power of .NET, sharing code across all of my different apps that I need to build. So I can actually be way more productive and transfer my skills around. All right, now in addition to that, when you want to get up and running, you're going to need to do a few things. First is you'll want to install Visual Studio 2022. If there's newer versions of Visual Studio, I'm recording this in 2022, you'll want to make sure you browse the documentation, of course, figure out what you need to install. Here when I installed Visual Studio 2022, both the same on the PC and the Mac, you just have to check the .NET MAUI multi-platform app UI button. That's all you need. And that will give you everything that you need to get started building applications. So let's go ahead and do it. I'm going to go into Visual Studio 2022, and we're going to build our very first application. So here I can tap on Create New Project. Now, previously, if you were coming from Xamarin or Xamarin Forms, I would tell you to go under the mobile option here. Now here, we're going to see a combination because I have not only all of the new .NET 6 and .NET MAUI things installed, but I also have Xamarin installed as well because I still have some Xamarin apps that I'm supporting. Here we can see the old Xamarin Forms template, Xamarin Android applications, Xamarin watchOS. These are the older projects that are still supported today from Microsoft. But if we scroll down to the bottom, actually funny enough, you'll get down past the F# ones. You'll see these Android and iOS applications. And these are the ones that are built for and on .NET 6 or .NET 7 or .NET 8 based on when you're watching this, or 9 or 10. Now that's really cool. So if you just wanted to build just an Android app with Android user interface, no cross-platform anything, or iOS storyboards, you could do that there. There's other things like binding projects, which are nice if you want to bring in native libraries from Android or iOS and create C# bindings around them. You can do that too. Now we want to actually go to the drop-down MAUI. Now on the Mac, this is under multi-platform or cross-platform in the section. You'll see .NET MAUI, and you see other Xamarin stuff there too. But regardless, you'll see 3 different project types. One is a .NET MAUI application. This is the one that we'll be creating today, which gives us applications for iOS, Android, Mac, Windows, and actually Samsung Tizen, which is a platform supported by Samsung. Or if you're a web developer, you can actually choose a .NET MAUI Blazor app, which is a .NET MAUI app that uses Blazor Hybrid and a Blazor web view control. Now, you can always use those later if you want to blend in web controls in there. Then you also have class libraries, and those are nice when you want to create reusable libraries to share across your different apps, or maybe you need to unit test things and break away some of the code. So I'm going to create a .NET MAUI app and hit next. You can give it any name you want. I'm just going to leave the default, which is MAUI App 6. Yours might be MAUI App 1. Here I'm going to select what version of .NET I want to support, and I'm going to support .NET 6. Now, you may go ahead and pick .NET 7, .NET 8 based on what you have installed, but of course, that's going to be based on when you're watching this video and what installed with Visual Studio 2022. All right, so I'm inside of my new project, and I want to show off a few things here. First and foremost is everything in the Solution Explorer. Now, this is really cool. Let me go ahead and zoom in and show you what's in here. First, if we look at the dropdown, we have different dependencies. This project is multi-targeted. What that means is that the single project automatically targets Android, iOS, Mac, and Windows. Now you may see that this says Mac Catalyst, and this is actually a really cool piece of technology that enables you to bundle up native iOS applications into a native Mac application and add Mac capabilities like multi-window support and menu bar support and a lot more. And that's the technology that .NET MAUI utilizes. You can also build a Mac Catalyst app without .NET MAUI. You can also build a Mac application without .NET MAUI if you want to use AppKit, for example. But this is what .NET MAUI uses, and I absolutely love it. It really simplifies my development and gives my application a really fresh look. Now for Android, it's Android User Interface, iOS, it's UIKit, and for Windows, it is the latest Windows App SDK with WinUI 3. Now, of course, if there's new versions of those things, it'll use the new versions of those things. Now, what I want to also show here is the resource folder, and this is what's really powerful about .NET MAUI, is that not only did the team think about building and creating a cross-platform UI stack, what they also did is gave you cross-platform goodness. That means that there's cross-platform app icons, fonts, you can just add TTFs or OTF files, SVGs, including, images, including SVGs or PNGs or JPEGs. When you add images in here, they'll automatically resize into different PNG sizes for 3x, 2x, and 1x, and all the different Android ones that you need. You can also put in raw assets. So if you have a JSON file, a database file, or a text file you need to read, you can put it in there. Also, there's a splash image as well. So you can have a splash image that shows up. And again, that's just an SVG. And additionally, some styles. We'll talk about that here in a bit. But the team has given us fully cross-platform styling for every single control in the application and a bunch of colors too, which is also really, really nice. Now, when I double tap on the MAUI App 6 or MAUI App 1, whatever yours are, what I want to show you is what's inside the project itself. The first is that there's multiple target frameworks. So this is saying that I'm going to build and deploy for Android, iOS, and Mac. And there's a condition that says if I'm on Windows, also add Windows support as well. If you do want to build and deploy for Samsung Tizen, you can also uncomment this code and you'll be good to go. This will add Tizen support too, but you need the Tizen, installation there too. Now, what's really great is that, of course, we have all cross-platform things like cross-platform namespaces, implicit usings, which is a great feature of C#10. We also have cross-platform things like our application title, app identifier and GUIDs, version display names and version identifier numbers. These are great if you're tying into continuous integration and delivery. You can just bump them right from your CI/CD. We also have this code down here that is the supported operating system, and I'm wrapping, so you can kind of see they wrap around. I can make this a little bit bigger. There we go. And what we can see is that this is going to tell .NET MAUI how far back I want to support. You'll always be targeting the latest version, but this will tell you how far back you want to target. So I would support iOS 14.2 and higher, Mac 14.0 and higher, Android 21 and higher, and of course versions of Windows as well. Now finally, in our item group, we get to see a bunch of those cross-platform resources, all those things that were basically cross-platform for me, but there's some configuration. So we have our app icons, we have our include, which would be our background, our foreground, color file, image file here. We have our splash screen. Again, we have our colors. We have base size overrides if we want to tell what to base it off of. We have images. We can use these wildcards. You can always override and say, update this .NET bot and give it a base size of 168.208, and then it'll downsample from there. Fonts, and of course, assets. Now, what is great is that you can always right click and you can say, manage NuGet packages. And there are tons of NuGet packages on the internet that you can add into your project. These are different cross-platform libraries that are available, like JSON deserialization, system text JSON, a whole bunch of things. Now, some of these work with .NET MAUI, some don't, but you could imagine like the Azure SDKs or AWS or Poly, for example, for different things like that. One of my favorites is the community toolkit.mvvm. I have a whole video that I'll put up here. This is by far one of my favorite libraries in the entire world. Some other ones to definitely take a look at. There's a .NET MAUI community toolkit as well, which is really cool. There's a C# markup library. And then additionally, some of my others would be like Shiny, for example. This is a really cool library that does things like Bluetooth Low Energy, location, notifications, beacons, push notifications, and so much more. I'll put some links in the show notes to like awesome .NET MAUI and a bunch of great resources from the community so you can find more of those great things. All right, let's take a look at the project and what's in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to close everything, and then we're just going to go ahead and take a look one by one. If we go ahead and zoom in again, we're going to see that there are 4 files: app, app shell, main page, and my MAUI program. My MAUI program here is the startup of my app. This is what gets called when my application starts. This uses a common host builder pattern here. So this kind of comes from ASP.NET Core, which is the .NET Web Framework. But this enables me to configure my app, which we'll talk about here in a second, configure fonts, there's lifecycle events, and additionally, full dependency injection and constructor injection too. I'm not going to get into that in this video, but I have a whole nother video that deep dives into that because it's really, really cool. Now this thing registers an app, and if we look at the app, it is an app.xaml. XAML is an XML-based markup, and it's one way to build .NET MAUI applications. But what this is doing is defining application resources across my entire application. If I actually do this drop down here, I'll see that there's a code file behind every XAML page and XAML file. If I tap on it, this code behind is associated with the XAML page. I also have a full XAML 101 video if you're interested in that too. But what we can see is that this is creating an app shell. Now, an app shell is a newer concept with .NET MAUI. If I tap on that, what we're able to see is that this hosts the startup content of my application. Now, by default here, there's just one single piece of shell content. But when we start the application, I'll show you what it looks like, how you can add tabs on the top and on the bottom, and additionally, how you can add flyout navigation too. And all those combined also work too. Now, this app shell has one piece of content or one page, which is my home page. And this is the title is home, and main page here is going to be the name of the class of the XAML user interface. It could also be C# user interface too, and we'll take a look at that. Now this main page over here has a bunch of different views or controls associated with it. We can see that built into .NET MAUI are things like scroll views, stack layouts, images, labels, buttons, and a lot more. I can always come in and get full rich IntelliSense, and here we can see every single control, including entries, ellipses, frames, graphics views, indicator views, input views, list views, paths and pickers, polygons. We have full sorts of things. It's really, really, really cool. Reorderable items view, so all sorts of really nice things that are inside of .NET MAUI. And a lot of those are new, coming from Xamarin Forms. All right, so we have this, but again, each of these have code behind. So our main page has a little bit of code behind here in the template. And what we can see is that this initializes the page. Then we have like this int count and also a on counter clicked. And this is an event that's coming from our UI. And events are usually associated with a click event or a tap event or some user interface interaction. If we look down here at our button, we can see that our button says click me. it has these semantic properties, which are for accessibility. Then it also says clicked, and it says on counter clicked. And that specific actual event is the same name as the on counter clicked. And those two are associated together, which is nice. Now what this is going to do, it's going to increase the count by 1. It's then going to go in, and then if it's 1, it's going to name it with clicked 1 time or more than 1 clicked so many times, and then announce to the semantic screen reader that back. That's a great accessibility feature, and accessibility is one of the core foundations of .NET MAUI. So you can read back that if someone is using a screen reader, which is really cool when the UI changes. Now, in addition to this, we can always use these keywords such as override. And override will give us access to some of the sort of parent events in the main page here. So things such as when measuring changes, or the on appearing or on back button press occurs. There's also on disappearing. There's on navigated from, on navigated to, on navigating from. There's all these great different events for lifecycle events. The same thing over here for our app. If we look at our app, we can actually override things such as close window, app link requests, when different things were added or removed, but we can see events such as on resume, on sleep, and on start. We can also do things like open windows because .NET MAUI supports a multi-window support, and Windows also have their own life cycles too. All right, that is the project in a nutshell, all inside of that. We create the app, it creates an app shell, and the app shell has one piece of content in it. Now, what we need to do at this point is deploy it. Now I'm going to zoom in up here because I want to show you everything that's inside of this dropdown for debug. Now, when I'm inside of here, I have the ability to pick between my Windows machine for deployment, Android emulators, iOS devices, simulators, remote devices, and a whole lot more. Now, built into Visual Studio and Visual Studio for Mac is tooling like Android device managers, SDK managers, and a whole lot more, but everything is right in there. Now, I'm going to deploy on Windows first, and you will have to put your Windows machine into developer mode, which I've enabled here in the settings. The same thing is true on Windows 11. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and hit the debug, which is not only going to put my application into a debug state, so I can add breakpoints, it's also going to enable two really cool pieces of functionality. It's going to enable XAML hot reload, so I can make changes to my user interface in real time and see them update in the app, but also C# and .NET hot reload that enables me to change code in the code behind as well. So our application compiles up a native application, and here I'm on a wide screen, so it's going to be pretty wide, but here I have my application that says, "Hello world, welcome to .NET MAUI." I can click on it, and we get the click events. If I go into the main page, I can actually add a breakpoint here. I can go back into my application, hit a breakpoint. I can hover over it, see the current count is 4. I can look at the button that's here. I can look at all the different properties that are inside of here. And of course, I can do different things with that breakpoint, add different conditionals, but I'm going to continue on. And then we can see it updates here to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now there's a bunch of other tooling in Visual Studio. If I actually go over to the pane, I can see the XAML Live preview. This is one of my favorite features. I'm going to dock it right inside of here. Now the XAML Live preview enables me to come in, get a preview. Let's fit height here, side by side. So if you're on a single screen, this is great because you can not only get a full view here and you can do those different adjustments. Here's width, for example, but you can actually hover over elements. When you tap on one, it navigates directly into the XAML, which is really cool. So you can actually do that. If I tap on Hello World and I say, "Hello, everyone," what we can see is that my application updates in real time. So here it says, "Hello, everyone," right? Which is nice. Now it is a mirror of my running application, so we can see it here. So this is really, really cool. If I wanted to, for example, make the text color, again, we get this rich IntelliSense. We can say orange in here. What we're now going to see is that it updates to orange right there. And when I hover over it, I get that IntelliSense kind of pop-up, which is cool. I can do other things like add grid lines. If I'm really trying to style and get things pixel perfect, I can do that too. I can, of course, clear that out. That's one option to navigate around. I can also come in and open this live visual tree, which gives me sort of a full overview of my entire application, allowing me to get deep into the different areas. So I can actually go into the main page, the labels that are in here, and really navigate around. So a lot of cool pieces of functionality there. Now, the other thing that I'm able to do is come back in. Let me pin this here. And let me go ahead and go back into my main page XAML CS. Now, when I'm here, I can also make C# code changes too. So if I came inside of here and said plus equals 10, for example, I can hit save. If I have, for example, this hot reload on file save enabled. So here's hot reload. If I tap on that, it's going to reload it. If I open up my application and I click here, now we can see that it's updating by 10 every single time I click on it, which is pretty cool. So I'm not only coming in and creating and updating my UI in real time, but I'm also modifying my code too. And that also extends to adding new elements. So for example, if I was to add a button here and I said text equals navigate to page 2, and then I added a clicked event in here, I can have it create a new handler for me, which is pretty cool. Now that's going to do some code generation for me when I save that and create that automatically for me inside of this back here. That's pretty cool. And then I can do other things. I can actually, of course, open that XAML Live preview and we can see that that button is there, which is nice. I could then, of course, do horizontal options. I can center it and I can hit save and do those different properties. Now, I'm not going to go into every single control or every single thing that you can do in .NET MAUI. We have full, documentation and learning paths and other videos on that too. But I want to get you sort of this understanding that I have this scroll view. I have a vertical stack layout that is laying out my controls vertically. So I have images, I have labels, they have different properties on them, they have different events on them. And if I go past, and for example, if I was to make this really small, I can see that I can scroll automatically because the scroll view is handling that for me, which is nice. That's a native control. These are native buttons, native things there. Now, on top of that, let's say I wanted to, obviously navigate to page 2, but I could also come into this code behind and display different alerts or different pop-ups. So for example, inside of every page, you have the ability to do a display. Let me say display. And we have the ability to do an action sheet. We have the display alert and also display prompt. So you can add people to actually insert some text. A action sheet will show a series of options and alert will do a pop-up. So for example, if I want to do a pop-up that says hello, and then I could, do world here. And then the last thing would be the message. I'll hit that there. I'm going to go ahead and hit the hot reload button. And now when I hit that there, we get a native pop-up dialog for Windows with WinUI 3 in this case, saying hello world, which is really cool. And of course I can preview that inside here too. And I can see those different pop-ups and everything that's happening. And that sort of productivity is what I really love about .NET MAUI and Visual Studio together. Now let's talk about Android, okay? There's two ways of deploying to Android, and what we actually see on the dropdown is mostly Android emulators. Now there's this Android device manager, so it's actually going to open up on my machine. Here we go. And this Android device manager, it's going to enable you to create a new device right here, configure it, pick your version of Android that you want, set different properties, and of course, you can manage them from here. So you have all these different Android emulators available to you. Now, by default, Visual Studio 2022 and Visual Studio 2022 for Mac or whatever version of Visual Studio you're on doesn't create any emulators or actually install any Android SDKs for you. So the first time you run this, you may be prompted to create devices and also install Android SDKs. You'll definitely want to do that and just follow on the prompts. And of course, I'll link to documentation so you can follow all of that too. Now, beyond that, you're able to not only come in and launch these manually, but as we saw in the dropdown is I can just simply toggle this framework from Windows to Android that will then toggle the project and then pick a default emulator for me that I've used. I can also pick one manually here if I want to, but I'm going to use this Pixel 5. I'm just going to hit debug. Now, when I hit debug, what this is going to do is it's going to compile up a native Android application. Now, this is going to take a little bit longer. And the first thing we're actually going to see it do is open the emulator. So this is an Android emulator here running on my machine. So I have some other apps that I ran that we can see here. No MAUI app 6 yet, so that'll come up there. But this is an Android emulator, and this is running on top of Hyper-V. So it works really, really well. It's really fast, as you can see as I sort of scroll this up. It is really fast. Now that's one option that you have. If you're on Windows 11, you can actually use the Windows subsystem for Android if it's available in your country. You can enable that. And then there's also an extension. I love Visual Studio because there's extensions. And you can actually search for online. It's called the Barista over here. It's called the Windows Subsystem for Android Barista from John Dick Reth, who is one of the team leads on .NET MAUI. Now, that's going to enable you to put your Windows 11 machine, install WSA, and deploy directly to your Windows machine, which is cool. Now here we can see a bunch of things are happening. The Android application is getting compiled. A bunch of Android-y, Java-y things are happening. Basically, it's creating that Android package to be deployed to my emulator. Now, the other thing too is that you can actually take your Android device. So for example, I have a Pixel device over here that I bought, just used on Amazon. That's a Pixel 3, I think. It was refurbished, like $100, $200. And you can plug that directly into your Windows machine or to your Mac. As long as it's in developer mode, it'll automatically pick that up. And then you can start to deploy directly to your device. So for some reason, you're an older machine, it's not super powerful, just plug in a device and you'll totally be good to go. Now again, this is packaging up here. And the first time it does this, it's going to take a little bit longer. I've been talking through this and kind of distract you, but here's our splash screen, which is nice, .NET. And then additionally, after the first iteration and build, it will then go ahead and be faster because it's just doing an iterative build. All right, cool. So we have our click me, which is actually increasing it by 10 every single time. If I actually go ahead and let me put this into a different mode that's not on top. This is a cool thing here. So move that off. If I bring it behind, we can see that I also get my XAML live preview here too, and I can overlay and see different things that are happening. Same with my live XAML tree here. I can tap on those things, which is really cool. I could maybe say pink. And then of course, we're gonna see that pink update and also update in my app right there. So actually get that side by side, navigating in here. Now, when I click on the navigate to page 2, we're getting a pop-up, but we're getting it with native Android user interface, okay? And that's what's really, really important about that, is we get that Android user interface at the end of the day. All right, last but not least, well, almost last but not least, is gonna be iOS and Mac. Now, I'm gonna start with iOS because for Mac, we need to go over to the Mac to actually build and deploy that thing and get it on my machine. And we'll do that here in a few minutes. But I wanna talk about iOS because iOS is pretty special. Now, like I said, for Mac, you do need to be on a Mac. Just like on Windows, you need to be on Windows. Now for Android, Google ships Android SDKs and Android emulators. You can plug in a device and everything is supported on both Mac and Windows, so you can deploy there. Now iOS is really special because back in the Xamarin days, one of the goals was really to bring not only Android, but also iOS development to Visual Studio on Windows. That was really complicated because all the Xcode and all of the dependencies in the build chain are over on the Mac. So the team worked really hard to do two different things. Well, three different things. One, you can just go to your Mac and boot up Visual Studio for Mac and you have all of your simulators, you can deploy there. The other thing you can do, so number 2, is connect to a remote Mac on your network. Now, there are lots of advantages to this. This will enable you to go through a full compilation for your iOS application and deploy it either to a device plugged into your Mac or go and bring it up on an iOS simulator that's running on your Mac or a remoted iOS simulator directly on your Windows machine. It's really cool. Like your simulator is running on your Mac, but it's basically kind of screen mirroring in to your Windows machine. You could interact with it with touchscreen, which is kind of cool because I don't have a touchscreen on my Mac. So I can do that there too if you have a touchscreen on your Windows laptop or on your monitor, for example. It's really, really cool. And all those controls work. Now, one of the reasons you may want to do that is because you need like a dependency that needs a native compilation change and is binding a native library, things like that. So you need to go through that full compilation step and get things up and running. But for a lot of developers that are just getting started, or for a lot of my applications, I don't need, or that comes way further down the road. So the team developed a cool piece of functionality called hot restart. Now, this is really, really neat. What this enables you to do is take your iOS device, like I have here, and plug it into your Windows machine without the need for the Mac. Now, what this does is it takes your code and puts it basically into an app package and deploys it to the iOS device. So you can't like ship that to the App Store. It's in debug mode. It's like not, it's not going to like walk around, and you can walk around with it, but you're not going to ship it or internally or to the App Store. Because it's not signed, right? It's not signed and packaged and uploaded to for Apple there, but it's for debug purposes and development purposes only. And it takes that source code and kind of runs it inside of a bundled app in that way. You need a newer device. I have an iPhone SE2, which has a A12, I think, processor, A13 Bionic processor, whatever that is. So you need a newer device, but you need to plug it into your machine. You'll need iTunes installed on your machine, and you will also need an Apple developer account. So there are a lot of requirements for this to get it up and running, but if you have all that, you'll be ready to go. So now what we want to do is go to that dropdown. And what I've done is I have taken my device and I'm going to plug it into my machine over here. All right. And when I do that, I'm going to get a pop-up that says I need to authenticate. So I'm going to go ahead and authenticate here. Perfect. All right. Now I've already enabled, all of the hot restart stuff. I'll point to documentation for you. And what I get is my iPhone plugged in to iOS local device. Now, if I wanted to get an iOS simulator or a remoted device that was plugged in, I could actually tap on this little pair to Mac over here. Okay, so if I go over here, I actually look at Tools, iOS, there's pair to Mac. And what I see here is I can add the Mac's via IP address or via Bonjour, it'll find it. Or you can add your own Mac here, and this is how you pair to the Mac automatically. But we're gonna use hot restart. So I'm gonna go and say my iPhone. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna hit debug. Now what this is going to do is it's going to go through a full compilation step for me, okay? That's actually really cool. So it's going to compile up my iOS device, my app, and then deploy it to my device. But I do need to go through the setup wizard. So I'm going to hit this setup wizard. I have signed in with my Apple account, which there is documentation how to do. So I'm going to select my team and I'm going to hit finish here. This is going to download any search, requirement stuff, all the things that I need to do to actually get it up and running and deployed onto my device. Now, all right, now when we look at the output, we can see that it has this full IPA file, which is basically going to enable to build that file and then deploy it, which is really cool. So it's going to go through that final deployment stage onto my device. And then from there, what it's going to do is going to ask me to go ahead and open the application manually the first time. So I actually see it installing right now on my iOS device, which is really cool. So here it's asked me to go ahead and launch the application because it's my first time. So I'm going to tap on it on my iOS device. That's actually going to launch it. You can see it down there launching. It's connecting to the debugger to my iOS device. You can see way down there. Let me bring it up. The cable is attached via USB. But what's really cool about this is that all that tooling works well. So even though I can't lift it up all the way because the cable's short, the USB cable, I can actually open up the XAML live previewer. And this is my application right here running. So if I came in and I moved that back to orange and I said hello from iOS, what we can see is that all that hot reload goodness continues to work, and that XAML live preview does too. So I can hover over these different elements, tap on them, and navigate to them as well. And that is so, so cool. Not only being able to deploy from my Windows machine without a Mac on my network or anything like that, but to actually start deploying and debugging and getting things inside of Visual Studio, which is oh so cool. All right, last but not least officially is Mac. So what I'm going to do is first head over to Visual Studio for Mac 2022 in this case, I'm going to show you what iOS looks like over there. In that case, Android looks pretty much identical, but then we're also going to go ahead and take a look at deploying to Mac with Mac Catalyst. Okay, so what we'll need to do is install Visual Studio for Mac. So when you go to the Visual Studio for Mac homepage, there's a big download button, and of course, any additional will work just fine. I've already downloaded the installer, so I can double tap on that on my desktop and launch it right here. Now, when you launch the preview installer, this is going to launch a similar experience to Windows, but it's a little bit different. Here we can see it has this installer pop up. It's checking my machine to see what I have installed. You may need to enter your password here just so it can validate what all is installed on your machine. Now, I've already installed Visual Studio for Mac and a bunch of the .NET MAUI stuff. And if you already installed it but forgot to check .NET MAUI, you can just rerun the installer and pick it here. So when we hit continue, we can see we get .NET, .NET MAUI, and other things like tvOS and macOS. Now, built into .NET MAUI is the underlying platform, so iOS, Android, and Mac Catalyst. Additionally, if you go down further, you'll see Android, iOS, and Mac OS Cocoa for Xamarin. I also recommend checking those. It's important sometimes you have backwards compatibility or opening other projects there. So I recommend installing that too here. Okay, so once you have that installed, you're going to just open up Visual Studio, and you can see I actually have things installed side by side over here. So I can just open that up. And this is going to launch Visual Studio 2022. Now, of course, I just run all previews because that's what I do. But I'm going to hit New Project, and we are going to go ahead and see that we can build web apps, console apps, we can build cloud applications over here, and we can also build multi-platform apps. And here is the .NET MAUI app, the Blazor hybrid application, and the MAUI class library. So here, let's go ahead and do this, and I'll say .NET 6. I'll say hello from Visual Studio for Mac. Nice long name for a project title. But again, you're getting the full project here, the same exact one that we saw over on Visual Studio for Windows. So here we get the same things. We got our dependencies and our drop downs. This time here, we just get Android, iOS, and Mac Catalyst. Because we're not on Windows, we don't get that pop-up there for Windows. But we do get all the platforms. So it's the same exact project. We still get the main page over here. And sure enough, we get images and labels and buttons and all that stuff. Now, in addition to Visual Studio 2022 for Mac, you'll also want to install Xcode and make sure you run it, get all the dependencies there, because that is where on this dropdown, similar to Windows, you will see all of the iOS simulators that you have. So there's all the iOS simulators, all your Android emulators that are here, and of course you can deploy to your Mac. So if I go and I select an iPhone simulator, now what I can do is just come over and simply hit debug. And what this is going to go ahead and do is now compile up the application and then deploy it onto my iPhone simulator. Now, if it's already been launched, it will go ahead and launch it. If not, it's already up and running like it is here. I'll just go ahead and launch the application. And sure enough, I get my .NET MAUI application. I can hit click me and I'm increasing the count. And it's the same exact thing that we got over on Windows. Now, the difference is that I can also come in and stop debugging and then say deploy to my Mac. I'm going to now hit debug again, but this is going to compile up the Mac Catalyst version of our application and deploy it locally right on my Mac machine, just like we saw when I deployed to Windows from Windows. So sure enough, here it is, and I'm on a dark theme, so we can see that we get the dark theme over here, which is quite nice. So it automatically responds this default template, which is absolutely lovely. Now, I mentioned earlier that you can do your full .NET MAUI development, but you can also do web development and Blazor hybrid development with .NET MAUI, which I'm totally going to touch in another video, but I'll put links into the show notes below. But that's it. That's how you get started over on your Mac and do all of the things I'm going to show you in the rest of the video. Okay, so we've gone ahead and we've created our application. We've deployed it to Android emulators, Android devices now, iOS devices now, Windows devices now. We used hot reload for XAML, for C#, and a whole lot more. How do we do a few other things? For example, how do we create a new page? How do we do navigation? Well, of course, there's great documentation and videos on that, but let me walk you through the basics. Now that you know how to put down controls, how do you actually put down and navigate from page to page? Additionally, how do we interact with device APIs and style our application? So let's head back over to my Windows machine in this case to do a little bit of navigation. Okay, so we want to go ahead and create a new page in our application. So I'm going to go into our MAUI app. And what I can do is just say right click, add new item. This is going to open up the new item dialog, and we have C# items here, and Visual Studio for Mac, it's the same. We have .NET MAUI. We can create content pages in C# or in XAML. We can create content views, which are kind of reusable components, and resource dictionaries. So I'm going to create new page 1 just in our root. You can put them in folders as well. New page 1, maybe not the best name, but it's a name. Now, one thing I noticed in this template is that for some reason, I've never called my MAUI apps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but the namespace doesn't seem to be correct there. So I'm going to go ahead and change the namespace of this class and also in the code behind. You may not run into this issue at all because I've already reported it to the team, but I'm just going to align those namespaces because it should for you if you name your MAUI app literally anything else. Now, this new page is a vertical stack layout with a label in it, and it just says welcome to .NET MAUI, but I'm going to say welcome to new page 1. Now, in addition to that, we need to go ahead and navigate to this page or put it in our user interface. So let's first talk about some of the things that App Shell does. App Shell itself can host pieces of content. Now, it can host multiple pieces of content. So for example, I can come in and say shell, and here I can copy this shell content. I'll say new page. I can then come in and we can see this is local : and I can see new page 1. Now, if I had other namespaces, I could add them here too. So if I had XMLNS : other thing equals, and then there's all of the different namespaces available to me from Android to my MAUI app, for example, and different MAUI resources as well. So you can add those namespaces there, and Visual Studio will help you out. Now, the last thing is I need to update this route, and think of it as a URL that you want to route to. In this case, it's not super important because I'm going to put it inside this piece of shell, but it may be important down the road when we start to navigate to this page. So now when I add multiple pieces of content, it is going to go ahead and put in a flyout sort of navigation. Now we can see that the default template disabled that, and it gives us a lot of options. We can have flyout, it can be locked, it can be more. So now we're just going to enable flyout here, for example. And I'm going to go ahead and now navigate and say deploy to Android. And let's go ahead and deploy and debug this over onto my Android emulator that's up and running. I could deploy it to Windows, to my iOS device again, whatever you want. Now, by default, multiple pieces of shell content are flyout items. Now there is, for example, flyout items. There's menu items and submenus and a lot more. But a shell piece of content inside of the shell will default to flyout items. So you can just add as many as you need in here. You can add them in the code behind as well. But that is what's going to happen by default here. And there's great documentation in shell and everything you need to know. And now it's off deploying. You can see it's a lot faster this time, which is cool. So now I have this flyout. I can see a new page in here and navigate to the next page. Sure enough, I get the animations. It's buttery smooth, which is super nice. That's pretty cool. I get the pop-ups, I get everything I want. That's pretty cool. Now, if I want to, I can also come in and get tabs. So here, I'm gonna say disabled again, because I don't want flyout. I'm now gonna go in and say, I wanna put this into a tab bar. So I'm gonna add 2 pieces of shell content into a tab bar, and I'm gonna hit run again. Now I literally just disabled flyout and just added a tab bar and 2 pieces of content, which will give me 2 tabs, home and new page, which is pretty cool. And we can see the little animations there too. Now, if I run this over on Windows, for example, we'll get a different look and feel based on flyout and based on tabs, because the team uses the latest and greatest sort of WinUI 3 there. And we also saw that I didn't have any icons, but I can specify those icons on the shell piece of content. I just don't have any in this case because it's the file new project, but I could add little SVGs in there as well. So now we can see is that here I have 2 different tabs, tab 1, which is home, and new page. I get that nice little animation there as well. So you get that all right there, which is cool. Now the tabs are going to be a little bit varied based on what you're doing, but here we have tabs. I could also come in and add more tabs and, tabs inside of tabs. And that would give me bottom tabs and top tabs and nested tabs as well. So there's all sorts of things there too. But that's one sort of form of navigation. But what if I want to navigate from this page to this page? Well, there's a whole navigation system built in. So I'm going to delete this default. And I'm just going to say, hey, here's shell content. Now, this shell content has a route of main page. Now, since I'm going to navigate to this new page 1, I'm going to need to register that page. So in the code behind for the app shell, I'm going to come in and I'm going to say routing dot, I'm going to say register route. Now what I need to specify is a string, which is the route. So let's give it a new page as the route, and the type. So I say type of new page 1, and there we go. So this will specify new page as the route and then type of new page 1. You can make this name of new page 1. You can put anything you want in here. It's the route. There's absolute route, relative routes. There's a lot to learn about in routing, but it's pretty cool. Now, if I go into my main page, I'm going to come in and I'm going to go ahead and say await. And this is now going to make this asynchronous. I'm going to say shell dot go to shell.current dot go to async. I'm going to say new page. That's it. Now in this case, it's going to navigate to the new page, push it across, do standard navigation. I could do other things like add in different identifiers. If I wanted to pass in query properties, I could do that. I can also pass in a full, I go into the navigation here, dictionaries of parameters. I have a whole video on all that stuff too that I will go ahead and show you down in the show notes or up in the little info button there too. So let's now go ahead and make this Android again. There we go. And what we'll see is we're going to navigate over here to this new page. So there we go. Let's navigate over to new page, and new page 1 will be created in this context. So it's actually really, really cool. And again, it loads so much faster every single time you do this. That's really nice. So I'm going to say navigate to page 2. And just like that, we've navigated, I guess, to new page 1, sorry, new page 1. And navigate back, does it automatically. The back button works. You can disable the back button. There's all sorts of good stuff. You can do modals, you can do all this other stuff. It's kind of pretty awesome. Let's be honest with you. Now that's standard navigation, tabs, flyout. What else can I think of? Oh, you can create these pages in C# too. So let me do new item over here. And I'm going to go create a new page. I'm going to call this new page 2. There we go. And now what we have is the exact same thing as earlier. We have a new page. Again, I'm going to change the namespace to namespace my 6 app. New page 2. It's a vertical stack layout. And here I have a new label that is setting the properties horizontal, vertical to center, and the text to welcome to .NET MAUI from code. All right. What this also enables me to do is do things like, I don't know, create a new button. So I could say var button equals new button here. And then I could say go text equals go back home, for example. So if I want to navigate back home, I could then add that into my children that are in here. And I could also say button dot clicked plus equals, hit tab. That's going to create it for me. And in this case, what I could do is I could go and navigate backwards. I'm going to say await shell dot current dot go to async. And the way to go back is to do dot dot in this case here. So now we have shell current go to async dot dot. If I was multiple pages in, I could do / dot dot and go back again, which is actually pretty cool. So let's go ahead now and register this page in my app shell. So I'm going to say new page 2, type 2. And now instead of navigating to that first page, let's navigate to new page 2 and debug again. Now this user interface will be created completely in C# and it should look pretty much exactly the same, but it'll have the button in it as we would expect in this case. So here we go, navigate back. Here we have this go back button over here. We could maybe add some spacing in there, but when I go back, it navigates back, which is quite cool. Now I could go ahead and tell it to animate as well, one of the overrides, all those nice things that are in there too, or I can hit the back button. So it's kind of up to you. If you were in a modal, for example, dismissing that modal, so you have those options available. All right, last but not least is accessing native APIs. This is one of my favorite features of actually building applications with C# for iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows. I have access to those APIs in C#, but also from cross-platform APIs built into .NET MAUI. This is actually really, really cool. So what this means is that I can access things like SiriKit or Android Bluetooth directly through those APIs, or the .NET MAUI team has abstracted like 70 or 80 different native APIs into a single cross-platform abstraction for me. Things like connectivity, device sensors, geolocation, and a lot more. So I'll go ahead and integrate that into the app. Now, the place I would recommend always, and I should have said this from the very start, is going to the documentation. So this is going to show you not only the supported platforms, getting started, tutorials, device setup, so much more. It's going to give you everything you need. But here under platform integration, this is going to show you not only how to access native APIs, but also those cross-platform APIs like app actions, browsers, map, permission, version tracking, contacts, email, networking, phone dialer, SMS, web authentication, battery, all these different things. So this is really, really neat. So let's say instead of going in to my main page and just having one button that says go to page 2, I go in and I say button text here, and I'll say check internet. Okay. And I'm going to say horizontal option center again, add a clicked event. I'm going to create a new clicked event and just hit save. Here, for some reason, the hot reload couldn't apply my changes. So I'm going to go ahead and hit rebuild and apply changes. I probably just source generation, some timing there. So we're just going to have it redeploy. But now what we're going to do is inside of our button clicked one, what I can do is when I check internet is I can access one of those APIs. So here, if I say Microsoft.maui. I have different things like animations, application model that give me activity state, app actions, app info, browser, and a lot more. There's also the networking, for example, that gives me connectivity. Each one of these APIs has an interface with it, and you can actually do different mocking of that if you're doing unit testing. So these APIs are brought in automatically. So I can say connectivity.current.network access. And inside of there, I could check to see if, for example, if I said var has internet, I can say equals, so give it a new line. And I could say if that equals network access dot internet. And if it has internet, then we totally have internet. Now that's really, really cool. The other thing we can now do is say display alert. And here I'm going to say has internet ? And I'm going to say string interpolation has internet, and then OK. Again, I'm going to go ahead and hit that hot reload button. And now in my app, when I check internet, I totally have internet, which is super cool. If I come in and I actually put this into airplane mode and I hit check internet, I don't have internet anymore, which as expected is there. Now I can go in, I could run this on my Windows machine, and we're going to see that I do have internet on my machine. I'm not going to turn it off in this case, but I can see that it will pop up a native Windows pop-up dialog for me. So let's go ahead and see it here. Ooh, there we go. Check internet, and sure enough, I totally have internet. Now, all those APIs are abstracted, but are being called from C#, and you can call those APIs from C# too. One thing I didn't show yet was this platforms folder. This is really neat. Let me zoom in. Now we can see is that I have all the different platforms I support. And inside of here is actually a little bit of code that was scaffolded automatically. In Android, we have our main application that's creating our MAUI app, main activity here. I can override Android lifecycle events. I can add Android specific resources, Android specific permissions and app different information. Same thing for iOS with my app delegate and my info plist. Mac Catalyst, Tizen, and Windows 2. Those are all there. So what this means is if I want to, I can say using Android.Bluetooth, for example, and access those Bluetooth APIs. Now, another really cool thing is not only can you access those APIs, create an interface for them if you want to, but you could write that directly in, I don't know, this main page here. So this new page where I go back, I could do a conditional compilation and say if Android, and look at this, it's going to give me all the additional Android compilation flags that I can put. If it's Android 21 or greater, if it's just Android, I could do elif iOS, and then I could do end. Right now, what I could do here is I could access end if, there we go. I could say Android dot Bluetooth dot, and I could access the Android API. I can control what my highlight is via this dropdown right here in Visual Studio. So if I say iOS, now I'm using UIKit dot, and I get access to those APIs. So I have access to everything inside of C#, which is really, really cool. All right, last thing to talk about is styling. I talked about it a little bit ahead of time, but inside the resources, we have a styles and we have colors. Now these colors are going to define all the colors in the application. So you probably realize that there's a lot of purple, for example, but if I want my application to be blue, and then I want this to be light blue, let's see, maybe, or is it light blue, is that one? Or maybe, you see where the colors are going to pop up. Let's do blue, or maybe there's got to be a light blue, right? Oh, there it is, light blue. Let's do orange for some reason. You know, I can do this, but what we can see is that there are all these styles and colors that have been built up for me automatically, which is really nice. Well, these are going to style our controls because inside of styles.xaml, every single one of these controls has a light theme and a dark theme mode for it automatically. Okay, now I could run this over on this Android emulator. However, I did pick an older one that doesn't have dark theme mode on it. So that's going to be kind of a bummer. From what I can tell, is that there's not really going to be a way to do dark mode on this one. So I have another Android emulator, so I'm just going to toggle this here. This is the power of being able to toggle between devices, and I'm going to go ahead and launch it here on the Pixel 5. Now this is another Android emulator that I have up, and this one does have dark mode on it. So you can see it's enabled there. And this is already, up and running, and I can run multiple Android emulators at the same time, of course. If I had a device, I could plug it in there too. Now, what we're going to want to see is not only do all of these different controls that are built into NET MAUI have themes associated with them, but they're using this app theme binding, which basically enables light theme and dark theme mode across the entire application. So we're hoping to see that, and additionally styling our application with our new blue and light blue colors, and of course our different orange here too. Now that's nice because as you scroll through, you'll see all of the different controls and editors and frames and things like that. But if you scroll to the bottom over here, you'll also see this shell styling too. So if you want to modify your title bar, your foreground colors, background colors, navigation, settings, all that thing, it's all right there automatically for you. So that's one of my favorite features too. There's a lot of my favorite features in here, but you can kind of understand where I'm going here. It's pretty cool that you can easily style and change all the different settings, not just only color, but for example, padding, for example. So it drives consistency across your application. Okay, so it's found the emulator. It's up and running now. Here we go. We get our splash screen, .NET, which is nice. And then we have our dark mode, which is cool. And we can see that our different themes have changed across our application, which is quite nice. You can see our buttons have changed colors as well. I should be able to put this back into the light theme. There we go. And now you can see the blue has really taken over. So you have to change some of those different settings based on if you want light theme or dark theme, but we get all that blue in here as well coming into our application. So that's pretty cool. You see that come right in automatically. So there you go. All right, from start to finish, hopefully you've gotten a grasp on what C# is, what .NET is, and what exactly .NET MAUI is, and why you'd want to build with it. For me as a C# developer, I love it because now I can build applications for anything and share code between all of my applications. Now, I've just really scratched the surface. In fact, this is really just 051 getting you off the ground running. Hopefully you found it entertaining and you built your very first application. And tweet at me at @JamesMontemagno or leave a comment below. I'd love that. Now, I want to also talk to you about a few other resources that are totally available for free on the internet. First is that I did an entire beginner series 8-part course. This is about an hour and a half long, something like that, I would say, over on the .NET YouTube. This will actually have you build an entire small to-do application from start to finish with .NET MAUI. It will also teach you the basics of XAML and MVVM data binding architecture, and also show you navigation and passing parameters around. If you want to go even further, what I want to talk to you about is my 4-hour-long workshop right here on my YouTube. This is also going to take you from start to finish. I recommend the beginner series first, but this one will have you building an entire monkey application that will get monkeys from the internet, pull them down, put them in a list. It'll have you tap on one, navigate, display data, pass parameters, and so much more. That one is really, really cool because it's sort of like present mode, do some stuff, follow along. Now, beyond the documentation, beyond the website, beyond all the amazing YouTubers creating .NET MAUI content, not only on the .NET YouTube, but independent community members and .NET team members like Javier and Gerald, there's so much more great resources like Microsoft Learn, which is free self-guided learning. I'll put links to all this stuff in the show notes below. So if you prefer to sort of have a project style system where you're building things up and get a little icon badge at the end of it, head over to the free Microsoft Learn resources where you can learn all about that stuff. I want to know your questions. I want to help you start building applications in C#. So please reach out to me at any time in the comment below or on Twitter or anything like that. I always try to get back to everyone super duper quick. And of course, at any time, hopefully you've hit the like button on this video. If you haven't by now, you've made it all the way through. So please do consider hitting that like button and hitting subscribe, because I put out videos nearly every single week right here on my YouTube channel. I put things into the .NET MAUI playlist, which I'll put a link to as well. And now I also do have some videos on Xamarin Forms in that specific playlist because a lot of the APIs are exactly the same. So everything I'm teaching you can be applied there too. Anyways, I hope that you really enjoyed this video. Hope that you can consider subscribing and also hitting that like button. And also when you hit subscribe, you can get notified when not only new videos come out, but also when I live stream, which I do on occasion too. Anyways, thank you all so much. I really appreciate you making it all the way through this video. I really hope that you've got up and running and started building your very first application. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you so much for watching and have a good one.